Where'd you learn the martial arts?
Big surprise. Huge surprise.
I'm starting to get in a bad mood, you know? Maybe it's like a mood swing, my hormones, I don't know. You know, maybe it's my needs impose my will.
Good evening, you're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show, Kicking It. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting live from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have got on the sat phone signal the dairy god himself, the real Dr. V, is going to be joining us here in a moment, because tonight, Gerard Butler week continues during this corona lockdown. And, Doctor, I've got to say, I want to start off by giving some of my initial thoughts. But how are you doing this evening, sir?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm broadcasting from beneath the prison. Just letting you know everything is good going on over here. So, yeah, what's up?
Glad to hear that. Yeah, that's awesome, because we have a lot to talk to, and it's probably just going to be an epic rant. So, let me preface this movie with my initial thoughts here before I ask you yours. And it's simply this. In the description, as people are starting to join us here in chat, yes, we can all agree, I think the majority of us who've seen this film, that we despise the ending. I think this movie would be flawless if that ending was changed somehow. So we will deal with that as we get to that last 15, 20 minutes of the movie. Right off the bat, I want to sit there and say about Gerard Butler. I had seen 300. I know he had been in some rom-com type things. But on our Top 10 Tuesdays with Emily Team from I Love Comics, most recently we've done 2009. And this was one of my top movies of 2009. I think it's much, much, much better than Inglourious Basterds and a lot of other stuff that was out there. And it's fantastic. And it solely rests on the intensity and delivery of the performance of one Gerard Butler. I can see why the ladies love him. I can see why the guys want to be him. He is the man in this movie. And he would be my pick, as I said on our last Gerard Butler stream. I would like him to be Snake Plissken in a remake of, or reboot, shall we say, of John Carpenter's Escape from New York. We'll see if that happens. Ultimately, it's a very stupid film as far as what goes on, but your mind doesn't even think about that, simply because you want to see all the crap that's coming up, and then about halfway through it, you start realizing, this guy's not messing around, and they're not dialing it back down. How absurd can they get with this? And I'm eating every bit of it up. And then you get kicked in the balls by the stupid ending, whatever. But that being said, even with the horrible ending, I'll give Jamie Foxx credit. This is a perfect role for him. Being smart, slick, smooth, without being too cute, like in Booty Call and other films he's done. This is one of his best performances, and these two playing off each other is fantastic. So let me ask you, Doctor, what are your initial thoughts about Law Abiding Citizen?
Like I said, when I watched it the first time, I loved it. But I did not like the ending. And I don't know how many people who actually do feel the same way. I know you do. There should have been an alternate ending.
Yes.
I feel like this was done as a safe ending. They're afraid of feedback. If you if they would have let Butler actually win,
Yeah. Let me ask you this: when you're watching this movie, do you not think that, at least for me, I was pumped up watching him do what he does, and basically I actually believed there at the minute he was going to get his final vengeance on Jamie Foxx, and I was hoping he would do it, and I was rooting for him the whole time. Were you?
Definitely do, because this felt like a Punisher movie. The situation would happen, how his wife and daughter were pretty much raped and killed in front of him. He couldn't do anything, and then these guys make a plea deal to get off. Hell yeah. Do a lot of us done this? Probably, most likely. Maybe not as clean cut as he did, but I gotta say, those were just kills.
Yeah, there's some good lines in this movie too, and I think you bring up a good point about justice and those types of things. I don't consider this a very moral film. I consider it a very individualistic type film as far as some people say it's a vengeance film. Of course, the character says something kind of the opposite. I know a lot of people that don't like this one basically say it's dumb, it's stupid, the plot's dumb, it makes no sense, the character's inconsistent, and I get all that. That being
Well,
said, it can still be effective with what it's trying to do, and I think it does.
well, this was a movie that critics were saying was too violent and it was subpar acting. That was their big thing. They're like, oh, it was unnecessary violence. And I said, you guys must hate the Punisher because the Punisher is that. And this is kind of I said I would have loved to see this as being a Punisher story. This is when I read Punisher by Garth Ennis. This is the violence I get.
Hmm.
The dismembering of the guy on the table. He freaking put him in, paralyzed him, and then took a circle saw to him.
Yeah, let's talk about that scene because that's early on, and for me that was a key turning point in this movie. When I first was watching it, like early right at the beginning, the punks come in and they mess up his family real bad, and there's some scenes of him just watching them go away, whatnot, and it's like, okay, I get it, and then Jamie Foxx comes in, and then after about a minute or two, you realize here's a smooth, fast-talking lawyer on his way up, and he's only interested in keeping his 95, 96% conviction rate or whatever
Yeah,
maintained because he's got his sights on high office, and in doing so, he cuts a deal which Gerard Butler's character just doesn't want to do, and he's like crying and moping. And I'm like, wow, I guess this is what women see in Gerard Butler. And of course, he goes out to talk to the press, and Gerard Butler's walking away and sees him shaking hands with the bad guy or whatever who gives him some mean stuff. And you're like, okay, let's see what this guy does, because you don't know his background. You don't know that he is a combination of every single
yeah,
James Bond, every single Matt Damon character, any sort of super spy. This guy's it, but he's smart. So yes, there's extreme violence, like you said, but right when he helps the bad guy escape, the one who gets off or whatever, only to lure him into a facility, and kill him, where he even talks about, "I'm going to save this box cutter for your penis. I'm going to, take the scalpel to your eyelids," and it goes on and on. You're like, this is stupid and ridiculous. And then he goes to saw on his leg, and they cut away. It's all about the setup and his verbal delivery that makes it. It's not the scene where they go back there and they discover and people are saying things like, wow, look, this is about 20, 25 pieces. What's going on here? Then you're like, oh my God, is this going to continue? What's the deal? You're absolutely right. It's pretty graphic.
he's here over here. He's another piece over here. He's over here. uh, like I said, the whole plea deal with, and that's true. And this is our system. It's corrupt. They don't care. The judge there just get money. The same with the lawyers. They don't care. They're getting paid. They don't, whether you go to jail or you're innocent. They don't give a crap. This is our court systems. And sadly, it's true. I can see this happening. Oh, there wasn't. It was the guy got off. The guy who actually did the raping, murdering.
Yep.
He got off because he made a plea deal, basically to say that the guy basically he could to go turn against the other guy who was kind of the lackey of his friend. Ames. I think his name was Ames. This guy who basically just wanted to go there, rob the place, and leave. He even told the guy, knock it off, and then but the guy basically threatened to hurt him, and also he backed off. So basically the I would say the stooge of the robbers, basically took the fall. He's the one that got the lethal injection, and that was horrible. Oh my gosh, that was not expect. That was nothing I didn't expect. He's in the area, all of a sudden it just hurts, pain, because he took the chemical in there that make you just your veins just burned like acid.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was, like I said, I love this one. It's a just kill. I love this stuff.
Well, I think the point you talk about the first scene being graphic, and also even this death scene here, with the we find out later that that he changed out the chemicals in her to make him feel it really bad. You have to show this because, again, you don't know his character, you don't know his background, you know that some time has passed, but it's to show that this guy's really smart, because what happens is, you get Jamie Foxx making certain lines that are going to come back to haunt him, like, some justice is better than no justice, and it's like, yeah, okay, and you see how slick and smooth he is in manipulating people, because he's not interested in doing quote-unquote the right thing, or even the right thing, with some constraints. He's definitely not a tortured individual, Jamie Foxx. So when things start to develop like this, there's some pretty interesting scenes. Like they find out who the guy is, they raid him, and this house, and he's standing there, and you're like, well, why is he doing that? And they take him to prison, and they're interviewing him, and they're trying to get a confession out of him, which is like, hey, that's really not a confession. But then, all while this is going on, you know, Jamie Foxx's wife and daughter at home, and his daughter goes to put in a video, and it's the snuff film of him killing that first guy, and it's like, man, he is effing you guys up. He is screwing up. And then that's the point in the movie where I went, okay, this guy means business. And I didn't realize how much business it would be till we get, like I say, to the end. This thing is so great. I mean, it's just a phenomenal scene where you get all these side characters like Jamie Foxx's boss, who's done a lot of B-level work over the years, and he's a fantastic actor. I forget his name. I
Bruce
remember him on
McGill.
MacGyver back in the mid '80s, actually. Believe it or
You,
not.
you're talking about Bruce McGill from My Guy. He played Jack Dalton
Okay.
and MacGyver. Yeah,
Yes.
he was also in Some of Our Fears, Right Along, both those two, Animal House, Time
Oh,
Cop,
yes.
and he also worked with Jamie Foxx in Collateral.
Yes, and we
So
mentioned about before when we discussed Collateral. That's a good call. And you remember some of these things which are really, really good too. But I got to say that, you know, in this movie, there's violence, of course, but it's
yes,
really about, I would say, like the situation, and it's each one's what I call that creative kill. It's like not constant gun violence like a John Wick film or whatever, but he goes up in front of the judge, and the judge basically is going to let him off, and this is when you know the switch is flipped. Not that he's a smart dude or that he's going to seek revenge, because he's like, Your Honor, I'm not, a risk flight. They don't really have any evidence. And she's like, well, in light of what you're saying, I have a tendency to agree with you. And he starts clapping his hands and laughing. And you're like, I don't get it. And then he just unleashes on the judge, because if you weren't paying attention, this is the
yeah.
judge that let them all off originally or whatever like that. And it's just really mean. He just says some stuff to her, and she's like, order in the court, remove him. She's like, he calls her a bitch, says, I bet you even take it in the ass. And he loses it. I mean, he just unloads on her.
He basically he makes them look like fools. He exposes them, says like this is exactly what's wrong with the system, and this is why it's broken, and this is why you guys should not be here at all. We need to change the system. And the people in the I believe in the jury, not the jury, but the who were watching were actually cheering.
Yeah,
If I recall correctly.
All right, what's up with that? Well, I'll ask you. I'll go first, but then I'll ask you about one of your favorite scenes in the movie. But for me, what comes up next, this whole little development, it's not a particular shot, but it's the whole build-up. I call this the steak scene, because it's my favorite in the whole movie, and because I didn't see this coming, and I absolutely loved it. So he gets taken back to a cell in prison, and he goes and says, I'll make another confession, but you got to get me a bed. And he goes on and on about making a big deal out of getting a bed, having a bad back, all these kinds of things. It's a power struggle, and you can see Jamie Foxx not handling it well. But at this time here, he's like, I want a steak dinner. And I want it at 1 o'clock. I want it 1 p.m. exactly, and I want steak frites and this and that. Jamie Foxx says, you can go to hell with your steak frites, and you can tell he's just losing it. But they spend about 5 minutes. Okay, the Del Frisco's truck comes in. They check it all out, and the warden's just being a jerk off. And Jamie Foxx is like, come on, man, we gotta hurry up. And he's like, nobody tells me what to do in my own time. Check it again, bro. And so they do it. And he goes in there and he's eating, and they give him a spork, and his cellmate's watching him or whatever like that, and you could tell cellmate's going to do something to him because he's a much bigger dude. But then he's just taking his time, and he gives them some coordinates, 50 minutes here, seconds here, and all that, and they all got to leave. And it's like, he's like, what time is it? He's like, 1:08, and he goes, I said 1 o'clock. It was a deal. He's like, no, and Jimmy Fox is like, no, and he's like, no, you have to understand that these things are important, and he's trying to teach them a lesson. So they run off to go find this guy that was the lawyer of the original dude that got whacked. And so they're going, we got to try to save him. So he's in there with the cellmate, and they cut back and forth between the scenes of finding the lawyer, who's now dead, and Jamie Foxx is like, man, he had to set for 15 minutes, but we were 8 minutes late. If we were here on time, he would be alive. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But what's really cool is he had ordered a 20-inch, I think, porterhouse steak, and he's starting to feed his cellmate, and they start talking or goofing or whatever. And you can see underneath the table, he's got like the T-bone portion of it in his hand as a shank. And he just unloads on this dude while he's listening to music. I think it's the Rolling Stones. And just this thing is so brutal. And I'm like, I don't. And again, I'm watching this movie. I'm enjoying it. And I don't have a problem with the scene, but I'm going, why is he doing it? Why is all this graphic, unnecessary violence here? And it has a point.
He wanted to get into solitary.
Exactly,
And,
which we find out
yes.
why later.
Yes, but I mean, there's so much blood. He's just getting the guy in the throat with the
It's a gusher. He hit a vein or two.
Oh my gosh! Like I said, the kills in this movie are just brutal. I mean, and it's not like in the sense of Vince Vaughn's, Riot and Cell Blocks, whatever it was that movie was.
Yep.
But yeah, these are planned. This guy is smart. Like I said, this guy is pretty much like a Lex Luthor level intellect. He knows he's going to jail, and he kind of wanted to go to jail. He plans this.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking about. Why does he want to do this? Because we know what he's trying to do, but it's like a great Sherlock Holmes thing. We want to know how is it going to unfold, and that's what the end of it's going to be. And that's what I liked about this, except for the ending, which we'll get to in a minute. What about you? Any favorite scene? That's something that sticks out for you?
Well, I mean the whole movie, like I said, throughout the kills, the steak bone was pretty violent. That was not planned for that either. But I was wondering how is he gonna top off doing the killing Darby? The guy raped his wife and killed her. That's when he took the circle saw. I'm like, because that guy, he paralyzed that guy, so the guy couldn't move. The guy felt every single thing.
Yep.
And so that steak bone, I was like, wow. And then so as you go to the next day, you find out more about this movie as you find out that the reason he wanted to go into jail, because, well, if you're going to plan stuff out, the last person they're going to go to is the guy who's in jail, because, well, what's he can do? He can't leave his jail cell.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, does anybody ever search jail cells at all? I guess they never really thought about it, because, well, that's how stupid these people are.
Well, it's part of the system. It's groupthink. It's not individuality and smarts and all that. You're not successful in something like, especially when it's involved in a government. That's why all these big government systems and layers of bureaucracy make things go slower and don't do well. And Jamie Foxx is like the slick modern version of it that, in my opinion, in here is the villain. He's the bad guy. He's corrupt, he's young, he's smart, he's slick, he's not stupid, but he just expects everything to go a certain way here, and here's just an inconvenient guy that happens to be a little bit smart that challenges him. I mean, really.
And Epstein didn't kill himself.
Well, I knew this was going to be a bit ludicrous early on when he goes to kill the guy, because the very first guy there you mentioned before, where he paralyzes him. He tricks him into leaving this building as he's being chased by cops. He fakes being a cabbie, and the guy thinks he's getting away with it because he pulls the gun on Gerard, and but the gun has a little bit of a spike thing in a handle, and he's standing there paralyzed, and Gerard Butler character, I think it's Clyde, he says something along the lines of whatever the name of the poison is, that this toxin, it's isolated from the liver of a Asian pufferfish or something, and you're like, oh, it's going to be one of these movies. And you know what?
Yeah.
Sign me up for more, because there's a scene in For Your Eyes Only with Roger Moore, James Bond, where it's not said, but it's implied. It's Blofeld's character early on, where Bond's trying to come in a helicopter, and Bond tosses the pilot out, and you see Blofeld's character, as you see this guy falling through a smokestack, he says, "Really, Mr. Bond, you have no respect for the dead." And they had this big, huge fight that's just ridiculous, with armor piercing rounds, at a whatchamacallit, a graveyard, and it's like, really? But I didn't care at this point. I'm totally bought into it. This is after it's going to be biblical speech. I'm going to burn the whole damn thing down. And I'm like, now I see where Seth Rollins got his gimmick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I love that where he all of a sudden you see that the little the bomb retrieval thing comes up and just basically kills the killer. And so Jamie Foxx goes back to Gerard Butler's cell and starts beating the crap out of him, demands, and the killings, and he's like, dude, this is just beginning.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God. The mayor, Viola Davis, How to Get with Murder and plays Anna Waller in Suicide Squad movies. She's the mayor there. She's like, she puts the city on a lockdown, and she promotes
Social
Wow,
distancing.
Jamie Foxx. Yeah, yeah. Right? Yes. She promotes him to district attorney. I was like, why is Nick the district attorney? I thought that was weird. It's like, okay, because the other one's because his boss is dead, so he promotes him. I'm like, wait,
Mhm.
he's the cause of all this.
Exactly. That's how you get promoted these days. It's never on merit, of course. I mean,
But so then you're like, well, how do I? Because like you're like something's going on. It's like they try to look in to see what if Nick has bought anything else, and he learns they had an auto garage, and that's where they find a tunnel leading to the cache of guns, disguises. I'm thinking like, man, in real life, they never would have found that. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the ending here, I do want to bring up two small scenes that I think are actually pretty effective. There's a scene in there where Jamie Foxx is really freaking out because this guy's like, yeah, everybody's going down. I'm killing everybody. And, he has a talk with his really hot blonde assistant that, he is kind of like his protege. And there's no sexual thing going on here, too, which I think's a smart play. He's basically guiding her along and basically giving her the reality behind what the situation is with stuff. And she's like, well, did you ever, think you're doing the right thing? And he's like, well, I did, didn't you? And she has a little bit of a 2-minute speech here where she basically says, hey, look, I know that, I'm 35 and I gave up certain things, implied motherhood, having a baby, being married, those things, for this, I just want to know that it's, worth more than just a 96% incarceration rate. And she's not being a bitch. She's being sincere about it. Like, what's this all about? Because she's having second thoughts because she knows that the way he got put away wasn't on the up and up, and it was about how the politics were involved in it. And then, of course, you get the spy scene where you get them meeting somebody who knows him from his past that, starts off with his, I was never here and you never heard this from me. And he basically says, yeah, he was a master in low impact kinetic operations. And gives this big old speech about whatever. And he goes, yeah. And they're like, well, he can't do anything. He's in prison. It's like, do you think that matters? If he's in prison, it's because he wanted to be in prison. If he wanted you dead, he'd have you dead. And it just, you're like, oh my God. And unfortunately, again, this movie has to end. And where it goes downhill in about the last 15 minutes or so is when Jamie Foxx has him escorted out of prison just to the entrance and punches him, starts talking to him or what like that. And it's like, really? He lost it so much as beating him up? And that's that whole speech you're talking about. But then, yeah, they find everything and all that. And somehow Jamie Foxx is able to outsmart him, which makes absolutely no sense at all because his character is slick and knows the system, but he's not a smart dude. And this is the problem with the ending is a lot of people want to say, well, the writing's dumb and the acting's bad because Butler's character's inconsistent because he's so smart and yet somehow he allows this lawyer guy to trick him. And I agree with that, but that's not Butler's fault or his character's. That's the writing of it. For some reason, the writers, whoever had final say on this movie said, you know what? We got to make this guy die at the end by having Jamie Foxx have this big moral speech with him and flip the switchers on the cell phones or whatever the devices and all that too. So when Butler goes to blow up the mayor and everything, he ends up getting, burnt up or whatever. And at this point, I am rioting in the theater. I'm burning the place down myself because what an absolutely awful way to end this movie. You learn nothing about it. If it's meant to be a screw you to fans, it worked. The only positive spin I can put on it is that, yep, system's corrupt. Slick politicians like this are no good. And I have to say, Jamie Foxx does an unbelievable job of making you not necessarily hate him, but hate what his character does. Because you see how the system just totally envelopes him and just makes him be a pawn in the system, and you feel like this character has no soul. He's not going to his doctor's or his daughter's recitals. His daughter sees the snuff film. He's basically lying through his teeth to his wife, trying to make everything good just because he wants to move up in the world, and that's not the way to really do it. So, unfortunately to me, I think it's one of the worst endings of all time. What about you, Doctor?
I'll ask you a question raised on that. Originally, Jamie Foxx and Gerard Butler were cast as different roles.
Were they flipped?
Opposite roles. They were flipped. Now, would you like the movie, considering the ending, if it was Jamie Foxx was a criminal mastermind and Gerard Butler was
I think it would be interesting, But I mean, we would automatically hate Gerard Butler as the lawyer to begin with. Whereas Jamie Foxx,
I,
what's good about
I,
him is that it starts off as okay, he's just a lawyer. Now he's a little slimy. Now he's crooked. Now he's a jerk. Oh, now he's promoted. What the hell's going on? And it becomes more about the system than the character about it. So it just depends on how well that would have played out. I mean, I could
I,
see it.
I'll say this: I probably would have still hated I would have hated the movie even worse. I wouldn't have liked it at all. Because I can't see Jamie Foxx being the criminal guy, and then Gerard Butler being like the yuppie. Because Gerard Butler has that rough, exterior to him.
Yes.
He's not a pretty boy, Even though he did that movie, The Bounty Hunter, where he played a kind of, a romance,
That's a
a comedy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Rob Media comedy. No,
That's funny.
no.
That's how I'm going to kill you last.
Okay. But anyway, no, I probably wouldn't have liked it. I mean, and I think that's why they originally switched him around because they had both auditioned. They supposed to sign on to play Butler. He signed on to play the prosecuting attorney, But I guess they decided, what, this won't work as well because Butler is more intense of an actor.
Yes.
Jamie Foxx, what is he known for? The Jamie Foxx Show.
Yes.
Honestly, that's what I know from all up. And what was he? An idiot on there. That was his role. He's a comedian. He was not. I can't take him seriously, because when I see him, I just think of a guy. It's like, yo, baby, yo, what's up, yo. That's what I think of every time because his role, it just stuck with me. And maybe he's good in Collateral. I mean, I haven't seen Collateral. That's what Tom
He's
Cruise.
good in it, but I think this is his best performance. I think it outshines Collateral, and everyone talked about how great he was in Collateral. I don't see it. I mean, he just doesn't laugh in Collateral and goof off like we're used to seeing it. So people go, "Oh my God, he's really acting because he's doing something he's never done before." But no, he's been around a really long time. But again, he has a certain slickness and sharpness and smoothness to him that's really, really good. And this was really apparent in one of his earlier movies called Booty Call, where he plays a guy named Buns. And his timing and everything, he's really good. But I agree with you. I could not take him seriously as the criminal mastermind, but as the slick, smooth lawyer like this, that's not really evil or bad, but just morally vapid, if you will, empty. He's fantastic in it. He's really, really strong. And his presence in doing that really elevates the film.
The only way I would have bought this ending if they had Denzel Washington as Jamie Foxx's role.
Denzel, and that would be pretty good. Him and Gerard Butler. Oh, you got me thinking. Wow.
That's what I would have loved to see. I'm like, why is Jamie Foxx in this movie? Like, why don't we have Denzel Washington? Did he turn down the movie? Did you even ask him, bro? It's like, dude, he's like, when you think, I think of Denzel Washington, I think of The Pelican Brief, I think of Deja Vu, I think of Out of Time, all those movies where, why couldn't they get him for this? Are you that cheap?
No, it's just that Denzel, I think we like Denzel, so we're going to root for Denzel. And I think Jamie here did a great job where he's not being a comic. He's not being that guy. He's being a slick, smooth thing. And frankly, he should be casting these roles more often. For me, I will say this for my final thoughts. Rocky is one of my all-time favorite movies that gets me fired up and gets me ready to run through a wall. Watching Gerard Butler just stare at you and deliver whatever lines he's doing when he's starting to get amped up. And he's not yelling, he's not screaming, he's not losing it. It's just really slow and steady, but it's so sincere. I'm like, oh, it gets me fired up. And this goes up there. This is an extreme classic. To me, it's fantastic. The only bad thing is the ending, too. So I'll hand it over to you for any final thoughts on Law Abiding Citizen.
Like I said, I do not like this ending. Like I said, I did not like Jamie Foxx in the role. I would have had anybody else. I mean, if you're gonna have Jamie Foxx be in another movie, please let him be Carl Weathers' role as Apollo Creed to do a reboot. That would make more sense to him.
With this film is the Jamie Foxx part, but you'd recommend it, obviously. I'd assume because I totally do.
Well, yeah, obviously, I'd recommend this. It's just up to the point where you just make sure you don't have anything objects around you or anything you can throw.
Or like the mayor. Well, that's a good thing about mayor. I could do anything I want. She opens her cell phone and her head blows up. That's funny. Oh man. All right, well, Doctor, I'd like to thank you for showing up tonight on Kicking It for Law Abiding Citizen with Gerard Butler. I'd like to thank comics and everybody else that showed up. I gotta say, we got 4 subs in like the last day. I'm really excited about that. We're really starting to grow a little bit faster, which is really impressive to me. It's a signal that people are liking what we're doing, and I appreciate the people that have shown up, retweeted, listened, subscribed, getting the word out. Because that's the big thing with a young channel like us, is just giving people the opportunity to hear what we have to do and share some of the fun stuff that we enjoy doing. Because we don't try to necessarily get too serious or political with these things, but we like to talk about what we enjoy and have fun with and stuff too. And Law Abiding Citizen,
Definitely,
fantastic film.
Definitely, we give it back to the people. Sorry,
All right, thank you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing, and sharing it out. Like I said there before, and Doctor, thanks for showing up tonight, everybody. Stay extreme. Have a good night.
Stay out of prison.